Welcome to almost week 2 and the completion of week 1 for PQP part 2. We have really enjoyed reading your posts and your introductions and getting to know all of you. Welcome several people back to the course. And without further ado, bonjour.
Bonjour, wache. Anin, bonjour. Hello, everybody. We'd like to acknowledge today that we are gathered here right now in my backyard, but which is a traditional territory of Fort William First Nation adjacent to Thunder Bay. And the traditional land that Thunder Bay sits on is Fort William First Nation traditional territory. So happy to be here, and always happy to be have read through the week
and on a beautiful afternoon in Thunder Bay. Yay. It was 26 today, which is very rare for this time.
Feels
of May.
like spring has finally come. So, Christy.
So part 2, enjoyed reading responses, particularly around the Senate video. There were certainly some challenges to some of the ideas in it, but really about our visions, and our visions are really based on those beliefs and our sort of moral purpose that we bring to this job, that we bring to teaching, and our moral belief system about education. And so if we start in that space, then our next extension, as I wrote to many of you in a reply, was the idea that you take those moral beliefs as that purpose piece and you take it into your school, and you have to look really closely and get to know your community quite well. And you need to know their strengths, their needs, and their opportunities. And that's going to lead you to those next steps and how your vision may be manifested there, what the practices or pedagogy is that comes out of it, as things like frameworks and initiatives and programs or policies are handed down from either the board or the ministry. You really start to look at those through a critical lens based on how your community, what your community needs are, and what best way to serve them through the implementation plan. So it's a small topic, it seems like, but it actually has some really broad implications. And I know there was a little pushback, which
is good, because we actually had some quite good dialogue in the section that I'm looking after, and people really questioning sort of the commercialization of the message that comes and whose good idea is it. Which I thought was a good piece. Christy and I had a chance to go to ARA and a lot of the focus sessions we went to around the neoliberalism, and some of those conversations that I listened to on those days I found spilling over into our module this time. So really, I'd say really good questions that were asked of each other, and some really great responses. And really, I think that interrogation of everything from the entire circle around. And then really, I think to me that leads into that collaboration space where as a school leader that you create that space where you have opportunity that doesn't have a risk for people to just respectfully challenge each other all the time and be asking those hard questions of each other all the time. And when you build that environment, you really do come out with a space that really serves the community and the students now and into the future.
And so some of my doctoral work is focused just on that idea of looking at the academic literature versus the sort of commercialized literature. And we often, as school boards, are handed a package, either literature or a packaged message or a packaged program or pedagogy to fall from or to work from. And I think what's really, really important, particularly for me, and I know Denise as well, is how does that look in my community? So you're skeptical of what comes down, which is really, really important. That's how we learn to challenge. That's how we learn to question, and that's how we learn to make sure that the implementation of various initiatives or frameworks are really what is meeting our community needs. But to do that, you've got to have a strong sense of your own purpose as you go into education leadership, and you also have to have a really good sense of who your community is and who you're serving.
And we've had I'm thinking back to some of the educators I've worked with and some of the really great dialogues we've had. We won an award one time, and there was a big discussion about who sponsored the award and did we want to accept the award, and did their belief system really support the needs of our community and the belief system that our community had about really their own ability to function within a system that inherently had a lot of roadblocks for them and was, I would say, very discriminatory in nature. And so, that dialogue alone was not one that just was had with our educators, but it actually was one that we had at school council, it was one we had with students. And in the end, we decided that we were going to go ahead with it. But it took a while. It was not a quick decision. And nor was it one that I, as a school principal, made in isolation. So consult would be my, I guess, my big thing that I do a lot of. And it just helps you make the right decision.
So some housekeeping items coming up. Be sure to check in at 1.8. There is a Google Doc there, and that is where you sign up for the presentation of your practicum. Some folks are just beginning their practicums. Some folks have completed their practicums. The idea here is that you will host a presentation. You may use many formats. You can
Really
use
whatever you
PowerPoint,
want.
Office Mix, Sway. You can use another Google Doc yourself to present your goals, your research, your data if you have any, what your plan is for achieving your goals, and then host a discussion. So folks are going to give you feedback, and you can
ask questions too.
and ask questions, and you get the opportunity to respond to those and reflect on it. So that is coming up. So be sure you sign up. A couple people had asked me about what module to put their practicums in. Really, nothing
really
will fit
matter.
100%. Yeah, nothing will fit 100%, but whatever you feel like would be a really good fit for the work you're planning to do or that you have already done.
And for those of you who have completed your practicums already in part 1 with your previous provider, if you haven't already, please send your letter of completion from your other provider to Colleen Woods, and her email is cwoods@lakeheadu.ca. And then the minute we're done marking, which will be probably around the 20th of June, once it goes to the registrar, Colleen will send it right away to the Ontario College of Teachers. So you'll have it on your record card right away in July. So that's just a little bit. And then looking forward to things, and I guess today was a good day to do that because it was around personal strategies and work-life balance you'll be working on in part 2. That remains a challenge, and as I've read bios on everybody, everybody's busy.
Yes.
Families, friends, community involvement, jobs.
Plus May and June, we know in
School.
every school is a very, very busy time of year, so we
So
completely
please
understand.
really look after yourself during this time. As we noted last time, those initial dates are just start dates. Really, there's only about 2 things, like 2 work modules for each section, and then the practicum. So part 2 tends to be maybe a little less intense, and the time is mostly spent reading and looking at people's practicums and commenting on that. So give yourself a break. It's okay to do that.
Definitely.
And then we're actually going to get into some conversations where we just really scratch the surface on the ideas of privilege and equity. And you notice that that thread will flow through our part 1 and our part 2. But we do take a little trip down memory lane for some of you. We're going to be having to engage in a backpack exercise. And it usually generates some interesting conversation. I think one of just maybe 2 sections ago, we have a video there by Macklemore. And so there was some question about why Macklemore. And we were having that discussion tonight again, thinking, I wonder, it's probably time to maybe look for a different video or a different article. But nonetheless, it's the one we have right now in there. And it's still, I think, a good conversation about, the world of being an ally and what that means within that context and that landscape. So we wish you a good week. And it's been a pleasure reading and listening to your Thinking Online. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great one.